Hi, we're live again. Something happened with the other recording. Anyway, this is part two of Yoko interviewing me about my teaching experience and my teaching journey in Hong Kong. And after the formal interview in part one, now I'm showing her a few of the documents from my career that may be of interest to her. In addition, I'm going to show her the results of my LPAT, Language Proficiency Assessment for Teachers. Okay, how do we keep this thing on? Okay. Yoko right now is looking at something very important, a document that describes the kind of trouble that I got myself into. But it also describes the emphasis in schools, core values of the school that I was working for, and how I trespassed against a core value held by many stakeholders. And that's how I got in trouble. Any questions?
I think I could understand their stance.
Yeah, yes. I understand it too. At the time, I thought I was helping my students, but I really wasn't thinking about the other students, the other teachers, the other parents. I thought I was doing the right thing, but in fact, I was hurting other people that were outside my field of vision.
Yeah, actually, the danger of live recording, while we are not noticing that we are noticing there might be some problems, but it's already alive and people are already watching. Or
Great.
I don't know whether they are watching or listening, but if something happens later, if we notice that something wrong with what we have said, but we notice later on it's already alive, it's on the air already.
Great.
So that's the difficulty of the new technology.
Yes.
What I found.
Yes, but I assume the responsibility. I make the choice to broadcast this because I think people can benefit from the sharing. Otherwise, all of this will be hidden in the dark.
Oh, it's quite interesting.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so I'll show you that in a second. Where does all this stuff? Oh, where did all this stuff come from? Okay, other stuff. So, this was my after-school duty. So you can see that from 3:30 to 6 o'clock, I had to check things. So I had to walk around the school. Take a look at this thing over here. Yeah. I had to walk around the school and check these things, check these rooms, and mark down things that I notice. I think that's what it is. Yeah. And so I wrote all kinds of things.
Does it mean that this school has no security guard?
But you don't have security guards.
Oh.
I mean, but again, that's indicative of the school. The school could hire a security guard. They could make the janitors do this. But again, it's the mentality of the stakeholders that leads people to believe, let's make the teachers do it. Let's not hire a security guard. Let's not make the janitors do it. Let's not have parents walk around. There are other ways to do this if it needs to be done. But this feeds into some core belief, right? This is indicative of the organization's core beliefs. That the teacher should be doing it. And why should the teachers be doing it? Because it's fair. So that was my duty. So I had this teacher duty, and I had to walk around this gymnasium. Oh, I did this at lunchtime. I had lunchtime duty as well. So at lunchtime, I had to skip my lunch and monitor something. So this is a record of me doing my lunchtime duty, being a security guard, and watching kids play and make sure they don't get into trouble.
You skip lunch, and when do you have lunch?
I have lunch when I'm not teaching, but not necessarily during lunchtime. So that's traumatizing. I mean, to be forced not to eat, but to watch people at lunchtime again, this feeds into the idea that why don't you just get the janitors or parents, or why don't you just hire a security guard to do this job? Or why even have this job at all?
Yeah. What do you watch during lunchtime?
Hmm?
What do you watch?
I watch the students to make sure there's no problem. These were my remarks.
Do they have lunch in classroom or in canteen?
Some students have lunch in the classroom. Some students do not.
So you walk around with the classes to see whether they're having lunch properly or doing nothing wrong.
It depends on which kind of teacher I am. If I were a Form 1 teacher, for example, I would have to sit in the classroom with the Form 1 students because the Form 1 students have to eat lunch in the classroom at one school. The other older kids, they had the choice of going off campus or going to play on the campus, and people need to watch the kids on the campus.
Is it a regulation?
Policy, yes.
A policy of the school?
Yes, that teachers had to watch the kids at lunchtime.
For what purpose?
I don't know. Again, these go back to core assumptions, values, and beliefs that maybe the kids might do something bad. You have to watch to make sure that they're.
They do not believe kids then.
I'm not sure. Again, we never talk about these things. These are
Because
just implicit.
Kindergarten children, teachers might watch students when they have lunchtime, just in case if they talking something, but they are.
These kids might destroy property, might do something bad, break school rules.
They do not believe kids.
Sure. I like the idea. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but a lot of old public housing. Well, actually, let me ask you a question. What in Hong Kong? What do old public houses, schools, many schools, mainstream schools, and prisons have in common?
Scribble on the wall. No?
Sure, there's graffiti. They all look the same. You should go to some public housing and see the way the rooms are constructed with this kind of hallway jutting out onto a street, barbed wire. You look at most schools, mainstream schools, you have barbed wire, you have classrooms in a row, just like in public housing, with the walkway jutting out into the street. Prison, high walls, barbed wire, rows. I've never actually been inside the cell area of a prison, but maybe it looks like that. But the exterior of the prison looks like public housing. Exterior public housing, the exterior of many mainstream schools. I have pictures too, but they were on my iPhone. Oh, maybe I still have them here. Hold on, let me see. I wonder, maybe.
It's
maybe.
Okay. I know some.
Oh, here it is. Public housing, school, or jail. And so,
Which one is jail?
none of them are jails.
Oh.
That's not a jail. That's something else. It's either a public house or a school. It's the school. That's the school. That's amazing.
Outsiders coming to. Avoid outsiders coming to the school premises.
Yeah. And this is beautiful. This could be like classrooms. Amazing. Okay. So, lesson observation forms.
Lesson observation. You have to do observation every time. Lesson observation means observe others teaching.
I forget. I think I had to observe other people teaching, and then other people had to observe me. I forget what the exact policy was. At each school, it's different. At the university level, it's different too. Some were just perfunctory, some were a bit more serious.
This one we do for learning each other among teachers. 教科研究、研究、课有研究。
So it could be used to improve your teaching and learning. It could also just be perfunctory, just to do it because you have to do it. Policy. I guess it depends on the environment and on the individuals in the environment. So my writing had to be inspected too. So this was 5 years ago. Now, someone had to check my books, my assessment, how I was assessing students' books in the school, and then the person in charge had to write comments about stuff.
They have to keep all these records. Is this the responsibility of all the teachers to keep records?
I think so. Yes. And this doesn't necessarily benefit teaching and learning if people don't have time to reflect on this and to improve and then to follow up. Yeah, there's a lot of paperwork. But it's fair, right? And it means I'm a success. I mean, if your basic assumption is effort leads to success, I'm working hard on the papers. That means I'm a success. Forget about teaching and learning. Yeah, paperwork is king. So, what is this? This is some curious word. I wrote this to the vice principal. He created this form. And please comment on the draft exam timetable return Mr. Chong on or before this date. Nil return is necessary. I didn't understand why nil return is necessary. This is like a Byzantine document. It speaks volumes about the school. So I wondered why nil return was necessary. I had to return this anyway, I think. Whether or not I had comments. Even then, I was thinking about technology. You could just use this on eClass. But again, the school's way of doing is just work on Microsoft, develop this on Microsoft Word, print it out, distribute to every teacher. It comes back that way. Technology cannot help because people are unwilling for technology to help. I tried to resign before. She wouldn't let me resign though. And I think she was right. I had to keep going at this school because it was challenging.
In order to resign, you don't have to write any reasons? Or just say
no, I just resigned. They can ask for reasons later, but a resignation's a resignation. At one school, there was a praise and warning record. So this is a document pertaining to this particular school. Most of these documents come from, I think almost all of them come from this school. So this is a school's way of doing. You can praise or warn someone. Wow, hey, it's about 5 years ago. Amazing. Out of place, sitting improperly, insulting the teacher, disobeying instructions. So that's a warning.
What kind of activities or what kind of things are considered insulting the teacher?
Not sure. I don't necessarily remember this incident, but many kinds of things can be considered insulting, especially if the teacher is very sensitive. Wow, this is very interesting too.
Do usually the schools raise flags, national flags of China together with Hong Kong flag on National Day?
The school organizing body had a problem with this. I don't want to say which school organizing body this is, but this organizing body had a problem. So schools in Hong Kong, DSS, and well, actually almost all schools, most schools are run by an organizing body, right? Like, for example, Poland Cook or Tonghua or whatever. So this organizing body had a problem with raising the flag.
They do not want to.
Yeah, they didn't want to do it. Nil return is necessary. Again, why? What's going on here?
Who said it's necessary to raise the flag?
I think the Board of Management decided to raise the flag. No, the EDB said it was important to raise the flag. I mean, the government says it's important to raise the flag.
We also have the same argument between teachers and the government. Some people say that we in Japan do not have national flag. That is not a national flag. National anthem. Some people say, particularly teachers, they say that it is not national anthem. It is just a song to praise the emperor.
Curious. Different underlying beliefs, fundamental beliefs.
And my school, the school I used to teach quite a long time ago, student organization, not the teachers, the student union, against the school policy to raise a flag, national flag, on commencement day.
Curious. We don't get that kind of protest here in Hong Kong. Communist flag's okay now. Maybe people don't care. This is about the after-school duty as well. This was from 4 years ago. So I had to walk around and write things down, and this was a schedule of what was going on in the afternoon that day. And even then, I find this duty debasing and humiliating. Do we need an after-school duty? I wrote this 4 years ago. Do we need after-school duty? Is the duty a joke? So I wasn't a very happy camper doing this kind of work. Again, I could be reflecting on being a better teacher. I could be preparing for lessons. I could be doing something directly related to teaching and learning, but I spent 3 hours or 2.5 hours being a security guard. And that is a problem in this system.
This work is not teachers' responsibility.
That's my assumption. But again, it's obvious that the people in this organization have a different assumption.
And teachers in general, they accept it as it is.
They do. They may pay lip service to the contrary, saying, yeah, this is rubbish, but again, it's saying something and then doing something. They're two different things. So again, a lot of people will say, I'm sure if you talk to them, they would say, this is not cool. but they're not willing to do anything about it, them as an individual. This is a staff performance appraisal.
What is this? Oh, staff performance management. Can this report used for promotion or
I'm not sure. I could
grading
not
the
get promoted.
teachers or grading the teachers or
Sure. It's hard to tell because I was a contract teacher, and generally speaking, I think everyone gets the increment. So that's the thing about teaching. In a school here, you can get your pay raise, and all you need to do is get re-signed. But things would change in the system if raises weren't guaranteed and everyone were on contract.
what I heard from what I found from one of my friends is these days there are lots of contract teachers instead of tenure position.
Great. I'm sure the teachers complain about it, but it's on the way to a better system. I wrote something on my blog about school systems needing to be more like professional basketball. Because the problem with professional basketball is that you also have like a tenure system in the sense that you have like long-term contracts. And the good thing about long-term contracts is that you get to keep valuable players for a long time. The problem is you also need to keep the bad players for a very long time. And people don't realize that. That's the problem with tenure, too, that you have to keep the bad players. Now, the problem with long-term contracts also is that it provides less incentive for people to perform well and to change themselves. In basketball, there's a phenomenon called contract year. So when a person is at the end of their contract, and they know that they need another contract, and they want a better contract, they perform better than average. Over their career, they have a career year. Why? Because it's a contract year for them. So this is a phenomenon in sports. In teaching, this could be the same thing. But you have to get rid of the pay scale. You have to be able to reward the best players more, the best teachers more, and you have to be able to pay the underperforming teachers or the mediocre teachers less. You have to be able to do that, and then you start getting contract year phenomenon.
However, who decides which one is good and which one is worse having recontracting?
Yes, ultimately people, and that's the hardest thing, right?
Usually there is a principle, right? And those people would say that all these kind of duties are necessary, and teachers would say no to these kind of unnecessary jobs if these are asked by the principal or masters. So in order to have their own words, their position might be secure.
Yeah, it could be. This is a human problem, isn't it? About having the right vision and mission, and having the right leadership. Because in basketball, a lot of teams are run poorly. Why? Because the leadership isn't there. They don't have the right mission, vision. Things are mismanaged. You have too many bad players, too many bad contracts. Same thing with schools. Most schools are like that too. But this could be a better way, a more flexible system to improve teaching and learning. This could be. As it is right now, there could be more improvement. And we can learn a lot from professional basketball about how to run an education system. So, this is a curious document. These are the meetings, a principal's report. But what's important was during this meeting, I was writing this letter about the after-school duty and the lunchtime duty. So I'm complaining a bit about the redundancy of having so many staff do lunchtime duty. This is something that really frustrated me while I was a teacher there. What is this? So another curious form was, or policy in the school, was collecting homework. We had to collect homework every day and mark down which homework assignments we had to collect and who did not submit them.
Excuse me, is it individual teacher's job? And is it individual teacher's decision whether they have the homework or not?
A teacher assigns homework, and then the classroom teacher, the following morning, has to collect all of the assignments and distribute them. Why?
Isn't individual teachers' responsibility to collect the homework?
Well, that's your assumption.
It's secondary school, right?
Secondary school, yes.
The homeroom teacher usually have their own subject to teach. Homeroom teacher is not only the homeroom teacher and nothing else, right?
The homeroom teacher has to collect all the homework for all the subjects and then distribute it to the teachers.
Strange.
Okay, but it's a way of doing, and it happens in many schools.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my God.
So that's weird. Wow, collecting homework every day for all of the teachers and then distributing it to the teachers.
Why homework can be submitted on the next day or next class? Why has to be every day?
I'm not sure. There's a fundamental assumption, value, or belief in the organization.
It's certainly different from our way of having homework.
Sure. It takes time away from the homeroom teacher to do other things. But again, why do you even need a homeroom teacher? Why? Because you need to collect all the homework. That's why. You need to collect all the money. You just need to sit with these people.
Now I understand what you mean by homeroom teacher. It's totally different from ours. Homeroom teacher, you don't collect. Homeroom teacher just check the attendance. That's all.
Yes. For a homeroom teacher in the schools that I've worked at, it entails being a secretary.
Indeed. I didn't know that there is a big difference between Hong Kong teacher and Japanese teacher.
There are significant differences.
I'm very happy to find this big difference.
If you want, you can photocopy a lot of these documents. You know, these things are fascinating documents. You just go through them and photocopy what you want. I'll give you my password. You can photocopy. What is this? Oh, this is comments on my setting exam papers. If you're interested. These are someone's comments about my paper. These are my comments. Oh, I tried to resign again. Did I? I've been trying to resign a lot in my career. I kept trying to resign from this school. Like, oh goodness.
So you keep all these records?
Yes, because they're important to me. These characterize my experience, and you're starting to get a very clear picture of the kind of experience that I had as a teacher. This is a treasure trove of organizational learning and ineptitude. Hello. Speaking. Hi. Yeah, I thought Monday. Yep. Okay. Okay. So you will keep looking, and then when you do, you will contact me. Thanks, Miss Lau. Appreciate it. Bye bye. I tried to resign twice. I didn't realize it. I tried to resign in December, and then 3 months later, I tried to resign again. But I hung
But
tough.
this time you are not allowed to resign. And this time?
I didn't resign either. The principal talked me out of it. She's an ally. We're still in touch. She's a principal at another school now. Okay. These are more comments about exams and stuff. Okay. What is this? Scripts. A lot of times I had to help students prepare scripts for performances and stuff that weren't necessarily related to classroom time, but whenever there was some kind of thing that had to happen in school with student MCs, the teacher had to check everything and correct everything.
How many students do you have in class?
40.
And how many hours of teaching?
How many hours of teaching? I had 12 my final year. It was bad. I mean, in quantitatively speaking, in quantitative terms, it's not as much as 20. But then you think of all the other things that I was doing.
How about other teachers? Do they have as many as here is 12?
I think they had more. I think the minimum you can have to be full time is 12. I had the minimum. Yet I was still there until like 6, 7 o'clock every evening doing this stuff. When I was working at university, the minimum workload was 20 hours. But the thing was, it was more manageable than having just 12 hours and doing all this stuff. It's amazing.
At the university level, there is no this kind of work.
I hope not.
But lots of meetings.
Yes. Well, I actually think there are more meetings here at secondary level. There are just so many of these crazy things, meetings and stuff. There's a script.
Chinese teachers are willing to do these kind of extra works and out of class activities, out of class. Sometimes in China, mainland China, many good schools are boarding schools. Teachers become teachers like father, mother, just father, mother.
I think that's the same here in Hong Kong. Yet there's
But
still a
it's
lot
not-
of this and getting gets in the way.
But it's not boarding school, and once children will go home, that's it, right?
No, I think people try to establish relationships. Teachers and students try to establish relationships here in Hong Kong as well.
Because in China, the student may contact you even after school and even at nighttime and
Yes.
make a call.
Sure, that can happen here too. It depends on the students and the teacher and the organization. I've had that experience. I know colleagues, former colleagues, have had that experience too. This is another praise and warning record. What happened here?
Writing the message to the
Okay, I think he said something mean to me. Well, hello. What's this? So that was another praise and warning record. Another after-school duty form. Wow, these are a lot of after-school duty forms. Wow, look at all these after-school duty forms. Look at this. Wow. Hold on. Even more. Even more. Oh, even more. Even more. Hold on a sec. Let me put these in order. Oh my goodness, look at all this stuff.
It's super because it's you have the record.
Yeah.
It's happened verbally in Japan.
Mhm.
You have no record.
It's invisible. This is real.
Yeah. So you can keep it. It's nice.
Yes. These are very important in my development as a man and as a teacher.
Isn't this school EMI school?
Yeah.
But these are in Chinese.
Doesn't matter.
So what language do they use?
Use whatever language you want. EMI is just this thing, a label. It's not indicative of the reality. Bandings are not necessarily indicative of reality too. They're just like brands. It's like Hong Kong U. We had all these protests recently. They were all coordinated using Chinese language in the Chinese media. But everything here is in English. Most things. Then you start noticing some of the things in Chinese, like over there. Why is that in Chinese? Well, the things here in English. Why is this "Watch Your Belongings" in Chinese? Why is all that stuff in English?
When I was here in Hong Kong U, it was about 32 years ago. I was in Hong Kong and visited Hong Kong U. Then there was only Hong Kong U and the Chinese University of Hong Kong. And Polytechnic was only Polytechnic and not a university. And there was a big protest among students. Student union organized. We are Chinese. Why do we have to be taught? Why do we have to be educated in English?
Good. Yes.
Come back Chinese language, Chinese. And that is the student union's protest.
Good. I like that. It's a good protest. I'm just confused. I mean, that's the thing about Hong Kong. You can do anything you want. You want any kind of Chinese language, written Chinese, simplified traditional Chinese, simplified Chinese, English language, okay here for everything. English language, all Chinese dialects, okay here in Hong Kong. So you get a lot of this mixed messages stuff here. Nothing is very clear in Hong Kong.
So, what is the point of recent protest?
There's some problem with security here, I think. But again,
I
the
noticed that the police came into the university, right?
Yeah, I made some YouTube videos if you want to view that day. That was a very special day.
Why did the police came into the university?
Because some important people were coming and they wanted to have an extravagant response, security presence for these VIPs. So I filmed that.
Who do you mean by VIP?
I think the number 3 guy in China came. And Donald Chang was here too. I think that was about it. But the number 3 guy in Hong Kong for a few days prompted this just unprecedented police presence all over Hong Kong. Like thousands of police officers were put on his detail. Is that the way to describe it? they were assigned to him. So this protest is ongoing. If you go to this democracy wall down there, you can read more about it. I've also written a lot about it on my blog. It's a curious mess. So those are all the after-school duty things that are just crazy. Okay, so most of 11.
No time to prepare for the next lesson, and no time to mark the books and
Yep. So now they're
homework.
very concrete explanations as to why people need to take work home and why teaching doesn't change or improve in schools because you're doing all this stuff.
Change of the contents, a change of the syllabus will make the teachers even busy.
Yeah. I apologized for something. I think it has something to do with homework collection in the school. I did something wrong.
Humble servant.
Hmm?
Your faithful humble servant.
Oh yeah. I was reading Samuel Johnson at the time. That's how he signed all his letters. I use warmly these days. These years. So, screwed up. Apology. Collecting homework. Crazy things. Tried to organize a basketball tournament. I forget what the result of that was, but that's it. Now let me show you finally the LPAT stuff. These are my results and my certificate.
this is 3 hours test.
Okay. We can check it on.
So it's all the Hong Kong people. They have to go through the education for the sake of exam, and even after finishing the university degree, they have to sit for the exam.
Great. It's the entire system that
Lifelong examination,
yes,
oriented learning.
there are lifelong obstructions to better teaching and learning and a better society. I think that's the bottom line. Do you want any of this stuff? I got so much stuff online, so much stuff here. I sent you many links already.
Oh.
On my blog, you can read all kinds of things too. It's up to you.
And the interview was already recorded, or
Yeah.
how can I access to the interview?
Part 2 is over.